Hello and welcome to another jungle video and the second video of our season 10 top junglers. As we've just had our final big patch of the year, the current meta or the state of the game will carry over into 2020 until we get our first actual real season 10 patch. And with that in mind, I thought it would be a good idea just to revisit our top junglers so you are practicing the right champions and have a good idea of the meta for when season 10 begins. As always, it isn't really a cut and dry tier list, although this will be a bit more like that in nature, just an outline of the best performing solo queue junglers, although there will be a page for the best high MMR, low MMR, and of course best overall. So I will try and keep this as short and sweet as possible, and where applicable, when I've done videos in depth on champions for season 10, I will put those links in the description so you can go and visit those. And of course, if you like the layout and all the motion blur and sliding screens and such, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment to me below what champion you are planning on maining at the start of season 10. Now, the first page has the same champions in the last video, so we don't have to spend as much time on it, but the order has definitely shifted. At the top of the list, we still have Echo. He is still the overall overwhelming strongest jungler in the game. His skirmishing ability, his scaling, his safety, the fact that he's an assassin, he has insane lockdown from level 1. He has more ganking angles and Virkayu has geometry, and so he remains king of the junglers. And again, the cheeseball pick of Shaco when he can do this while you're taking a dragon and gank like that when he's level 3. He just has that really annoying, obnoxious, when you see him you kind of get tilted a little bit. He literally forces you to change the way you play the entire early game, and if he gets a little bit fed, you're gonna have a lot of problems. So even though our friendly neighborhood Viking Olaf right here is actually considered one of the best junglers in the game, S+ tier by most people, the things like the Echo and the Shaco should not be slept on. However, our Viking on the other hand is just getting more and more popular. The fact that games feel like they're over before they really begin, the fact that you have lots of skirmishes around those dragons, the fact that you need people who can do those dragons and heralds solo while still combating enemy junglers clearing quickly means that this double axe wielding berserker is definitely one of the best pickups you could have for the start of season 10. A nice R that combats the CC from those tanks, and a new Conqueror rune that means you can slap the face of any jungler who dares touch your beard. And on the note of beards, if you prefer to have one covering your entire body, then Warwick is a better pick for you. He doesn't have the best time into Olaf, although I don't mind playing the matchup. He is strong for all the same reasons, except he has that annoying ability to rotate around the map and pick off low HP targets. Sometimes, if you're having a bad laning phase and you're low HP, you're trying to farm on a tower, with Warwick you cannot afford to do that. The fact that once he gets a few kills can make him feel insanely unkillable, especially from a laner perspective, creates a lot of frustrations when he's soloing those dragons and still picking you off under tower repeatedly. And much like Olaf, the ability to fight enemy junglers 1v1 and survive low HP fights and skirmishes gives him that dominating edge over the rest of the field. I did do a season 10 update for my Warwick guide already, so if you're interested in learning how to play him, you can go and watch that one. Now, you will have noticed he has dropped down, but Kha'Zix is still an amazing pick. He is still one of the best junglers in the game, except his previous power was because he could invade and destroy enemy jungler 1v1, and once he started getting fed, he became a nightmare for laners because he would simply walk into your lane and kill you. His damage is still there, he can still take Conquer and Electrocute, he just doesn't excel at all of the things we talked about with the Olaf and the Warwick and the Echo, for example. And we'll end this page talking about Nocturne. He is pretty straightforward, he's easy to use, he's great across all MMR ranges. The only thing is his stats, while they don't look that beautiful and his win rate isn't that great, when you play him properly and you prioritize ganking and farming and objective focus at the right time, he will become, well, an actual nightmare for everyone. The fact that he has that semi-global ultimate, or at least, wide-ranged ultimate, means you can split push and you have the rotational capabilities, you have the assassin capabilities, and when people are not grouping at 50 minutes in the late game, that's perfect for a champion like this. Now to the second page of our best overall junglers, you'll see I put Elise and then Lee Sin. Now, usually I don't like to put these two because they're higher skill cap champions and they're definitely better performing in Diamond Plus. But again, it's all about those early dragons, skirmishes, and ganking. Those three things dominate the meta, and when you need to have early ganks, you've got Elise. When you need high mobility and strong skirmishing in the early levels, you've got Lee Sin, and both of them can of course do those dragons and heralds with ease. Just remember, Lee Sin is difficult, Elise is not too difficult, but takes a little bit of time to get fluid with her mechanics. Make sure you're putting in the time to learn them if you do want to try them. I do not recommend them unless you're really around Platinum. However, their win rates and play rates are so good at a certain level, you can of course begin to learn them. Just remember, the payoff will be the time you put in. And conversely, when you don't want to put a lot of time in but like to snowball and get free kills and basically win in that mid to late game, we have Master Yi. Yeah, he's known as a late game powerhouse, but he can spike in the mid game pretty hard when you have a small lead. You don't really need much to get going, you can farm quickly with the camp sequencing, you can counter jungle well, you do have dragon control, and that's all you're really looking to do as long as you can then translate that to good teamfight wins, to good skirmish wins. And now for Zac, people are kind of sleeping on this, I think. People get, stuck on the Sejuanis and the Mumus and the Nunus, but Zac here has a very good win rate. His play rate isn't even that low, and every time I face a Zac, I kind of think, uh-oh. Well, that kind of rhymed, didn't it? Well, that wasn't the intention, but Zac's E and his ganking and his annoyance with his team fighting and the fact that he actually does more damage than you think. And to that end, if you want to add in some Sork Boots and a Liandry's to your Zac kit, you're gonna be sitting pretty. Because of his activity on the map, his huge CC disruption and that underrated damage puts him in a really good overall spot. Don't sleep on Zac. And, I have to put Jarvan. I kind of was putting Jarvan and Vi together, but Jarvan just has, if you're gonna play Vi and you kind of want to do those things, you might as well just play Jarvan, a little bit better at it. His voice is more annoying and, he doesn't punch people, but we're gonna have set for that soon enough. Level 2 ganks, level 6 ganks, team fighting, damage tank, yada yada, it's all the same thing for Jarvan. He provides you versatility, accessibility, and utility. And then we have Nunu to finish up this page. He still has a strong place in this meta, I'm just really not seeing him as much as you would anticipate, with such focus being on securing those objectives. His consume smite is unparalleled in the entire game, but his CC, while strong and unrelenting, isn't always as reliable as even other picks on these lists, and they of course provide damage and a bit more of an oomph to their playstyle. However, if your sole goal is to get to gold, then these picks will do you fine still. We have the Ramus, we have Amumu, we have our Jax, we have the Mundo. I do want to focus a little bit on the Volibear and the Vi. Volibear will be getting his rework soon, but he is in an excellent state in the top lane in the jungle. If you're looking to get to gold, you can even use him well into diamond at the moment. His performance is solid. He's definitely strong in the early to mid game, so you need to be active with him. You want to win the skirmishes. You're not looking to get too much into a grouped fight, into a late game scenario. Amumu would be a better pick for that. And Mundo is a great fighter slash tank. A lot of damage. He does get low in his clear, so in these elos where he won't be punished for getting low, you have that time luxury of being able to scale, throwing the ganks when you can solo dragons. And once you hit level 6 and turn into the monster you've always wanted to become, you just run at people's faces with an unrelenting infected cleaver. And I didn't put her on the main pages just because she seems to have lost a little bit of that spark in her win rate, in her statistics, and J4 just kind of feels like a better version of her. However, in the low elos, when you're trying to get gold, you can get to diamond and platinum, you can succeed with Vi all the way up to the top, by the way. Don't get me wrong, she is in a good state. It's just her point and click ultimate makes her really useful in this particular MMR range. And as I've said before, when I first climbed out of the depths of low elo, I used Vi to do it because I could solo dragons really early, and that gave my team a huge lead. The same thing applies to Vi right now. And finally, the sexy page that everyone wants to see, even though none of us can play these champions that well except for the very few at the top. Nidalee starting it off, insane scaling damage, suffocating counter jungling. Oh man, when a Nidalee is good and applying that range pressure she has onto you and then translating that to lanes, it is an absolute nightmare to face. A good Nidalee is difficult to deal with, but it will take you time, okay? It's the same thing. If you want to learn her, but you're going to lose a lot of games if you're not at the right MMR in order to capitalize on her skill set. Rek'Sai's seen a resurgence in the win rate as well. I played her on stream the other day. You have to know ganking paths, you have to know jungling matchups. You are not looking to settle into an AFK farm situation. Someone asked me if they should go Tiamat. That is an option on Rek'Sai if you want to farm a bit more, but you really don't need it if you're applying the right level of pressure. You don't really need it to secure dragons, and you can still counter jungle and beat most junglers 1v1 with the warrior item. And while I know a lot of people like Rengar on this channel, it seems to drive a lot of traffic, the Rengar videos we make, he isn't in the best overall state. Riot actually released statistics based upon his performance with the dragons, and he performed equally amongst all of the dragon souls and dragon type. This was kind of surprising to the rest of us because we thought he'd do better with the Ocean Drake, didn't we? That turns out to not be the case. However, high elo one tricks and high elo mains of this champion are still as dominating as ever, as suffocating as ever, and making every Twitch streamer rage irrationally about his existence. Now, on the subject of high school champions that perform really well on high MMR, Talia's basically been there for a long time. She had a bit of a drop off, once again having that resurgence, but as a Riot commented in Reddit the other week, even when she's the strongest champion in her role, whatever that role is, middle jungle, people just don't want to play her. However, I'd advise against that, considering that one-shot combo is, I don't know, it can kind of feel better to one-shot someone with Talia than an assassin sometimes if you're that fed and are going with Harvest. The global ultimate gives you the ability to segment the map, cut people off from objectives, and of course rotate to those ganks in the earlier phases. Karthus, on the other hand, everyone either thinks he's OP or they think he's overrated. I think his playstyle is OP and shouldn't be encouraged whatsoever, and the fact that he isn't being used as much makes me kinda happy, but at the same time I think a really good Karthus is a nightmare to deal with. On the other hand, a good enemy jungler should be able to win the game and abuse the fact that he is looking to farm a bit more. The simple fact is the games aren't really going to the phases where his Dark Harvest stacks and his ultimate becomes that demonic hell level ability. Also, stacking Ocean Drakes and getting Ocean Souls and getting Mountain Drake Souls actually go against him, so that's also something to consider. And finally, the best marksman jungler in the game is Graves. Kindred is seeing a little bit of popularity resurgence, but the statistics and the win rates do not back up this claim. They can just feel a little bit clunky, not really fluid, and struggle with proper itemization, whereas Graves on the other hand doesn't really have those things. He can feel fluid, he can farm quickly, he has insane damage, and like Nidalee as a ranged jungler, when you get ahead, you apply the pressure onto the enemy jungler such that they never see an experience point even in their next game. Okay, hopefully that gives you a good overview of where the meta kinda sits for most MMR ranges. Hope you find something that you can enjoy to play. For you Evelynn mains, I just did a video on Evelynn last week. The reality is she just doesn't fit into the meta quite well, and she isn't having the best time in the win rate department, nor with the matchups. You've got a similar thing with Hecarim. He's still a hugely snowbally champion, but his win rate just isn't quite there. He isn't quite fitting in to what the rest of the game is doing at the moment. However, as you saw in my last video, things like Syndra Jungle are actually taking off just a little bit. People are looking for new ways to exploit the dragon map and see where they can come up with something kind of unique, but also have grounds and viability and can end up being strong picks. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment if you did. We always like to get around 1,000 likes per video. Let me know what junglers you're looking forward to playing in Season 10. Keep an eye out on jungle videos coming out this week, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button for that. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.